There was a time when almost nobody outside the United States cared about MLS. And honestly, that was fair. For years, Major League Soccer lived deep in the shadow of Europe. The Premier League had the stars. La Liga had the history. The Champions League had the biggest nights in football. And even in the Americas, leagues like Liga MX or the Argentine Primera Division carried more weight, more passion, more attention than anything happening in the United States. MLS wasn't just behind. It was being mocked. A retirement league, a place where old stars went for one final paycheck before disappearing from the football world forever. A punchline. Most people around the planet couldn't name 5 MLS teams. Some couldn't name 2. The league had spent decades trying to grow, pouring money into stadiums, expansion teams, marketing campaigns, and slowly, very slowly, it was making progress. But progress wasn't enough. And then Lionel Messi arrived, not to retire, not to disappear quietly into American sunsets, to transform everything. Because what happened next wasn't slow, organic growth. It wasn't a gradual rise over seasons and years. It was an overnight explosion. People who had never watched a single MLS game were suddenly waking up at 3 a.m. just to see what Messi would do next. Fans in Argentina started following Inter Miami every week. Mexican supporters who used to mock MLS suddenly knew every Miami result. European football pages began posting MLS highlights daily. TikTok exploded with clips of Messi in pink. Celebrities invaded stadiums like it was the Oscars. Ticket prices went insane. And for the first time in MLS history, the world was watching American soccer. Now, before Messi, other legendary players had tried to move the needle. David Beckham brought glamour and global attention when he joined the LA Galaxy in 2007. Zlatan Ibrahimovic brought entertainment and chaos. Wayne Rooney brought experience and credibility. They all mattered. They all helped. But none of them changed the league the way Messi did. Because Messi wasn't just another superstar arriving for one last adventure. He was the world champion, the player who had just carried Argentina to the trophy they had waited 40 years for. The man who most of the football world considers the greatest of all time. And when someone like that, at that specific moment in history, chooses MLS over Saudi Arabia, over Paris, over a return to Barcelona, people stop and pay attention. That decision alone changed the perception of the league forever, because suddenly, MLS didn't feel small anymore. It felt important. And Messi's first game proved it instantly. Inter Miami versus Cruz Azul, Leagues Cup, millions watching around the world. The team was struggling. Miami had been having one of its worst seasons. Nothing about the setup screamed Hollywood moment. And then, in the final minutes, Messi steps up for a free kick, scores. Of course he does. The stadium exploded. The internet exploded. Sports channels that had never aired MLS highlights were suddenly cutting to Miami goals on loop. From that moment, MLS entered a completely different universe. Every Inter Miami game became an event. Not just in America, everywhere. People weren't watching because they supported Miami. Most of them had never thought about Miami in their lives. They were watching because they wanted to witness Messi. And that distinction matters more than people realize. Because Messi became bigger than the league itself. And somehow, impossibly, that made the league bigger than it had ever been. Every MLS match had new meaning. Every away stadium sold out when Miami came to town. Every opponent became part of the show. Fans were paying hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars for the chance to watch Messi live just once. Just once. Even rival fans applauded him. That almost never happens in professional sports. Fans don't applaud the opposition, but Messi exists in a different category than opposition. His impact went far beyond football tactics or league standings. He changed culture. Pink Inter Miami jerseys started appearing everywhere, not just in Florida, but in London, Tokyo, Buenos Aires, Lagos. Kids in America who had grown up wearing NBA jerseys were suddenly asking for Messi shirts. Soccer didn't just grow in America, it became cool in a completely different way. And social media made the effect exponential. Every dribble became viral within minutes. Every assist became a global headline. Every goal traveled across the world in seconds. MLS had never not once in its entire existence, experienced anything remotely close to this level of exposure. And then there's Apple. Before Messi arrived, many people were openly skeptical about the MLS season pass deal with Apple TV+. The partnership had promise, but doubters were loud and plenty. Some called it a costly mistake. Then Messi signed. Subscriptions skyrocketed. Inter Miami became one of the most watched club teams on the planet on a per-game basis. Not because they were playing the best football. They weren't. Because they had Messi. That's the force he carries. He doesn't just attract football fans. He attracts attention itself. Now, let's be honest for a second. Critics weren't entirely wrong to raise questions. MLS still isn't La Liga. The gap in technical quality between MLS and the top European leagues is real, and anyone who tells you otherwise hasn't watched both. But here's what those critics missed. Quality isn't always the point, because football today isn't only about trophies and tactics. It's about moments, narratives, clips that travel across the world in seconds, global conversations that millions of people want to be part of. And no player in history generates those things like Messi. Every week, he creates another viral moment. A curling free kick, a dribble through 3 defenders, a no-look pass that makes goalkeepers look foolish, a last-minute assist that turns a routine league game into a highlight reel. Every one of those moments pulls millions of eyes toward MLS. Even people who openly dislike the league are talking about it. And that's what truly changed. Because irrelevance is worse than criticism. MLS is no longer irrelevant. Not even close. For years, Liga MX dominated football in North America in terms of attention and passion. Leagues in Argentina and Brazil often felt more globally significant than anything happening in the United States. But Messi shifted that conversation completely. Because suddenly, no league outside Europe was generating more international attention than MLS. Every week, the football world was asking one question: what did Messi do last night? That question alone became one of the most powerful marketing engines in sports history. And nobody planned it. Nobody paid for it. It just happened organically. Because the greatest player alive chose Miami. And here's what makes it even bigger. The timing was perfect because the United States is hosting the 2026 World Cup. American soccer was already on an upward trajectory. Youth participation was growing. New stadiums were being built. The conversation around soccer in America was changing. But Messi didn't just continue that trend. He accelerated it by years. Maybe by a decade. Young fans who had never followed the sport started paying attention. Cities that had ignored MLS were suddenly treating Miami road games like major civic events. Before Messi, some MLS games struggled to fill their own stadiums. Now teams raise ticket prices just for the nights when Miami visits. Cities prepare. Sponsors activate. Local news covers it like the Super Bowl is coming to town. LeBron James, Tom Brady, Kim Kardashian, Bad Bunny, Will Smith. Everyone wanted to be courtside for Messi. Everyone wanted to be seen in those stands. Because Messi made MLS feel glamorous. He made it feel global. He made it feel necessary. And that's something money alone cannot manufacture. Saudi Arabia offered Messi an almost incomprehensible amount of money, more than any footballer had ever been offered. Barcelona dangled history and emotion. Other clubs dangled trophies. He chose Miami, and that choice, that single, unexpected choice, may turn out to be one of the most consequential moments in the history of American soccer, because it legitimized the league in a way no stadium, no expansion team, no marketing budget ever could have. The numbers back all of this up. Inter Miami's social media following exploded after Messi signed. Millions of new followers in days. Merchandise flew off shelves. Sponsors competed aggressively for association with the league. The club's valuation jumped to levels no MLS team had ever approached. Even the way other players viewed the league shifted. Before Messi, MLS was widely seen as the final chapter in a football career, the place you went when the real chapters were over. Now younger players still in their prime, players with options, are beginning to take it seriously as a destination, because Messi didn't just join the league, he gave it credibility, he gave it a story, and maybe most importantly, he gave it visibility that no amount of money could have bought. Think about what that means in the long run. The kids watching Messi now, the 8-year-olds in Miami, The 12-year-olds in LA, the teenagers across the country who are following football for the first time because of him. Those kids are the next generation of American football fans. Some of them will become players. Some of them will become coaches. Some of them will fill stadiums 20 years from now. That's not speculation. That's how sports revolutions work. Michael Jordan didn't just win championships. He turned an entire generation into NBA fans, players, and believers. Tiger Woods didn't just win majors. He transformed golf's relationship with younger and more diverse audiences. Messi is doing the same thing for soccer in America. And the remarkable part? This might still be just the beginning, because the ripple effects of his arrival will extend far beyond his playing career. The cultural shift has already happened. The attention has already been captured. The fans are already watching. American soccer has changed. Not incrementally, not gradually, but fundamentally and permanently. MLS now has a seat at the global conversation. Not the head of the table. Let's not overstate it, but a seat. A real one. For the first time, and for a league that spent 30 years being treated as a punchline, a seat at that table is everything. All because one man decided to wear pink in Miami. Maybe MLS still isn't the best league in the world in terms of pure football quality. Maybe the Premier League remains stronger. Maybe the Champions League remains the biggest stage. But that's no longer the only measure that matters. Because right now, millions of people across the planet are watching MLS for one reason: Lionel Messi. And when one player can make the entire world care about a league that the world had chosen to ignore, that player isn't just changing football, he's changing history. People thought Messi came to America to retire quietly. He came to write a completely different kind of ending. And years from now, we may look back at this era as the exact moment soccer truly arrived in the United States. The moment MLS stopped being a joke. The moment the world finally started watching. The moment everything changed. All because of Messi.